The Helios Deep Space Research Station hung like a silver pendant against the velvet backdrop of space, its massive solar arrays drinking in the light of twin suns. Inside, Dr. Samira Hassan stood before the observation window, her dark eyes fixed on the streaking lights of incoming vessels. After 15 years of human space exploration, first contact with a truly dangerous predatory species was imminent. Dr. Hassan to Medical Bay 1. The station's AI chimed overhead. Priority. Alert. Samira's heart quickened as she hurried through the station's curved corridors. The message could only mean one thing: the Nexi delegation had arrived. Known throughout the galaxy as apex predators, evolved from pack-hunting carnivores, the Nexi were as feared as they were respected. The medical bay doors parted with a soft hiss. Inside, a massive figure lay on the reinforced examination table. The Nexi warrior was easily 3 meters tall, covered in iridescent scales that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. But what caught Samira's attention wasn't the warrior's imposing size or the wicked claws that could tear through reinforced steel. It was the tiny bundle clutched protectively against their chest. "Status report," Samira demanded, already pulling on protective gear. "Nexi's shuttle suffered critical system failure during docking," Lieutenant Rivera explained, keeping his distance from the injured alien. "Warrior refused medical treatment until you specifically were called. They've heard of your work with the Ziraki young." Samira approached slowly, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. The Nexi's silver eyes tracked her movement, pupils contracting to slits. A low rumble emanated from their chest, not quite a growl, but a clear warning. "I'm Dr. Hassan," she said softly. "I understand you're injured. Will you allow me to help?" The Nexi's gaze flicked between Samira and the bundle they protected. With agonizing slowness, they shifted their arms, revealing a Nexi cub no larger than a human infant. Unlike the adult's royal coloring, the cub's scales were pale, almost translucent. "Protect hatchling," the Nexi managed through their translation device. "Mother dead in crash. Eye Guardian." Samira's medical scanner revealed the Guardian's injuries: internal bleeding, fractured ribs, severe concussion. The cub appeared physically unharmed, but was showing signs of extreme stress. "Your injuries are severe," Samira said, maintaining eye contact. "The cub is safe, but they're responding to your distress. Let me treat you both." For several tense heartbeats, the Nexi remained still. Then, with great effort, they extended their arms, offering the cub to Samira. The entire medical team held their breath. Never in recorded history had a Nexi willingly handed their young to another species. Samira cradled the cub with practiced care, supporting their delicate neck. The tiny creature churred softly, their scales warming from glacial blue to a peaceful aqua. The Guardian's posture relaxed fractionally. "Lieutenant, prepare surgical bay 3, Samira ordered, never taking her eyes off the cub. "And bring me the thermal incubator from xenobiology. Need to maintain proper temperature regulation for both patients." Over the next 6 hours, Samira worked tirelessly to save the Guardian's life while keeping the cub calm and stable. She spoke constantly to both patients, explaining every procedure, every medication. The cub remained surprisingly calm in her presence, occasionally reaching out with tiny claws to touch her face mask. When the Guardian finally regained consciousness, they found their cub sleeping peacefully in a modified incubator beside their bed, Samira keeping vigilant watch over both. News of the Helios Station incident reached the Nexi homeworld within days. The High Council of Elders, a group of ancient warriors whose scales had faded to sterling silver with age, convened an emergency session. Never before had a Nexi warrior willingly surrendered a cub to an alien species' care. The implications: were both intriguing and disturbing. 3 weeks after treating Vorath and Zira, Dr. Samira Hassan found herself standing before the Council in their orbital chamber above Nexar Prime. The circular room's transparent floors revealed the swirling storms of the gas giant below, a reminder of the volatile nature of these proceedings. "You have disrupted centuries of tradition, human," Elder Kurtax announced, their ancient voice carrying despite its softness. "Our species has survived by trusting no one outside our own. Yet here you stand, endorsed by a guardian of the first." Rank. Vorath, now fully recovered, stood at Samira's side. Zira, growing rapidly, remained nestled in a carrying sling across their chest. "The human proved herself worthy," Vorath stated firmly. "She demonstrated strength beyond physical power." The council shifted, scales rustling like leather against their ceremonial armor. "Then let her prove this strength again," Elder Mirash suggested, silver eyes gleaming. "The trial of trust awaits any who wish to be considered pack-kin." Samira straightened her spine. She had studied Nexi culture extensively since the Medical Bay incident, but the trial of trust was mentioned only in whispered rumors. "I accept," she said, before Vorath could protest. The trial began at dawn the next day. Samira found herself deep within the Nexi ancestral training grounds, a massive biodome that recreated their species' original jungle habitat. The air was thick with moisture, and massive trees towered overhead, their phosphorescent bark providing the only illumination. "The trial has 3 parts," Elder Kurtax explained. "First, you must earn the trust of a wild Kubrick, a creature that has never known captivity or kindness. Then you must protect a clutch of eggs from natural predators. Finally, you must demonstrate your understanding of our most sacred traditions." The Kubrick was a fearsome sight. Similar to Earth's extinct terror birds, it stood nearly as tall as a Nexi adult, with razor-sharp talons and a hooked beak that could crush bone. Its feathers shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, a warning to potential threats. Rather than approaching directly, Samira spent hours observing the creature's behavior. She noticed how it marked its territory, its feeding patterns, and most importantly, its distress signals. When she finally moved closer, she carried no weapons, no technology, only her understanding and patience. The Kubrick charged her repeatedly, but Samira held her ground each time, mimicking the submissive postures she'd observed in younger birds. On the 3rd day, exhausted but determined, she found herself eye to eye with the magnificent creature. The Kubrick lowered its massive head, allowing her to touch its feathered crest, a sign of acceptance that drew murmurs of approval from the watching council. The second trial proved even more challenging. The clutch of eggs she was assigned to protect belonged to a mated pair of spine wings, flying predators that made Earth's eagles look tame. For 5 days and nights, Samira defended the nest against wave after wave of egg-stealing creatures. She used her knowledge of behavioral biology to anticipate attacks, setting up natural deterrents and even recruiting the Kubrick she had befriended to help guard the clutch. The peace that had settled over Helios Station was shattered by the arrival of the Psi-War fleet. Like living shadows, their biomechanical ships slid into orbit around the station, their hulls rippling with patterns of bioluminescent threat displays. The Psi were nomadic hunters, cybernetically enhanced predators who saw other species as either prey or competition. Dr. Samira Hassan stood in the station's command center, her newly earned Nexi ceremonial armor gleaming under the emergency lights. Beside her, Vorath's scales had darkened to combat black, while Zira and the other cubs had been moved to the station's secure central hub. "They're demanding we surrender all non-Psi young," Station Commander Dalia Rodriguez reported, her face grim. "They claim it's their right as the superior predatory species." "Superior," Vorath's translator crackled with barely contained rage. "They are scavengers who enhance themselves with stolen technology. They understand nothing of true strength. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the Psi Huntmaster. Their cybernetic eyes glowed an unnatural red, and metal implants protruded from their scaled skin. "We have studied your station," they hissed. "You harbor the young of multiple species. Such diversity is weakness. Under Psi guidance, they will become strong, resist, and we will take them by force." Samira stepped forward, her mind racing. The Psi were notorious for raising stolen cubs as their own, indoctrinating them into their brutal culture. "Huntmaster," she said carefully, "I am Karal of the Nexi. By their laws and traditions, I speak for all young ones under our protection." "Yeah." Huntmaster's cybernetic eyes whirred as they focused on her. "A human speaking for predator young. Your station's corruption runs deeper than we thought." "I earned this right," Samira declared, "as the Psi earned their cybernetic enhancements through trial and proof of worth. Would you deny the validity of such trials?" This gave the Huntmaster pause. Psi culture was built around proving oneself worthy of enhancements. Denying the validity of trials would undermine their own societal structure. "We challenge your worth," the Huntmaster finally declared. "Face our champions in combat. Prove your right to protect these young." Before Samira could respond, Vorath stepped forward. "The human's strength is not in combat," they rumbled. "Her power lies in understanding, in healing, in bringing together those who would be enemies. I have seen her tame a wild Kubrick, earn the trust of spine wings, and unite predator and prey in common cause." "Then let her prove this supposed power," the Huntmaster sneered. "We will send our most aggressive, uncontrolled young one. If she can tame it without technology, without force, we will reconsider our position." The challenge was set. Hours later, Samira found herself in one of the station's larger cargo bays, converted into a controlled environment for the trial. The Psi youth they brought was barely adolescent, but already augmented with basic cybernetics. Its organic eyes were wild with fear and aggression, its movements jerky and uncontrolled. "The enhancements are rejecting," Samira muttered, her medical training kicking in. "They implanted them too early before the body was ready. It's in pain." The young Psi charged, its cybernetic limbs giving it unnatural speed. Instead of dodging, Samira held her ground, remembering her lessons with the Kubrick. She kept her posture, open, non-threatening, even as razor-sharp claws stopped inches from her throat. "I know you're hurting," she said softly. "The implants burn, don't they? Your body's fighting them, but you're fighting too, trying to prove you're strong enough, worthy enough." The young Psi froze, organic eyes widening. No one had acknowledged its pain before. 6 months after the Psi incident, Helios Station had transformed beyond recognition. What began as a simple research outpost had evolved into the galaxy's first true interspecies sanctuary. The station's central hub, once filled with sterile laboratories and meeting rooms, now housed the Stellar Nursery, a revolutionary facility designed to care for young ones from every spacefaring species. Dr. Samira Hassan stood in the nursery's observation dome, watching the remarkable scene below. Nexi cubs played an intricate stalking game with young Psi, their movements a perfect blend of natural grace and augmented precision. In a temperature-controlled pool, aquatic meridian hatchlings swam alongside human children, their bioluminescent patterns flashing in synchronized joy. "The Council of Elders still cannot quite believe what they're seeing," Vorath commented, approaching with Zyra perched on their shoulders. The once tiny cub had grown considerably, their scales now shimmering with the deep blues of adolescence. "Sometimes I can't believe it either," Samira admitted. "A year ago, most of these species wouldn't even share the same space station. Now look at them." The nursery's success had sparked a revolution in interstellar relations. Species that had evolved as predators and prey were learning to coexist, their young ones leading the way. The key Samira had discovered was starting early, before ancient prejudices and instinctive fears could take root. Guardian Hassan, a young Psi apprentice called, hurrying over. Like many of the newer generation, they wore minimal enhancements, choosing to develop their natural abilities first. The first clutch of Caraxian eggs is beginning to hatch. The Caraxians were the latest species to join their growing community. Ancient rivals of the Psi, they were silicon-based lifeforms whose young emerged from crystalline eggs. Their decision to entrust their eggs to the nursery had been controversial, but the success with other species had convinced them to try. Samira hurried to the incubation chamber, followed by an eager crowd of children from various species. The Caraxian eggs pulsed with internal light, their crystalline shells becoming increasingly transparent. Through the shells, they could see the infant forms unfurling like living origami. "Everyone remember what we discussed," Samira reminded. "The watching children. Caraxian hatchlings are very sensitive to emotional energy. They need to feel safe and welcome. The young ones needed no further instruction. Human children began humming a soft, welcome song they'd composed specially for this moment. Nexi cubs added their own rumbling purrs, while Psi youth generated low-frequency vibrations with their cybernetic vocal enhancers. The combined effect created a harmonious resonance that seemed to encourage the hatchlings. One by one, the crystalline eggs dissolved, revealing iridescent Caraxian infants. Their faceted bodies caught the light, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the chamber walls. To everyone's amazement, the hatchlings immediately began mimicking the welcome song, their bodies chiming like crystal wind chimes. "They're not afraid," the Caraxian ambassador whispered, their own crystalline form vibrating with emotion. "In all our history, our hatchlings have emerged ready to defend themselves. But these, they feel no need for defense." The success of the hatching marked another milestone. Word spread quickly through the galactic community. If the predatory Psi and the crystalline Caraxians could raise their young together, anything was possible. The nursery expanded to include specialized environments for every conceivable species. Under Samira's guidance, they developed new protocols for cross-species care and education. Young ones learned not just about their own species' strengths, but how to appreciate and complement the abilities of others. Zira, now serving as a junior caregiver, proved particularly adept at bridging cultural gaps. "It's because they grew up with this," Vorath observed proudly. "To them, diversity isn't just normal, it's essential." The warning came without prelude, a massive quantum surge heading straight for the Helios sector. The phenomenon, unprecedented in recorded history, threatened to disrupt the neural patterns of every living being in its path. Young ones, with their still developing neural networks, would be the most vulnerable. In the station's emergency command center, Dr. Samira Hassan faced representatives from 24 species. The quantum surge would hit in less than 48 hours, and evacuation wasn't possible. The disruption would affect ships' navigation systems, making safe, faster-than-light travel impossible. "Our shielding technology can protect approximately 30% of the station's population," Commander Rodriguez reported grimly. "We need to decide." "The young ones take priority," multiple voices said simultaneously. Nexi, Psi, Caraxian, human, all spoke as one without hesitation. "The protected sections won't have room for adult caregivers," Samira pointed out, her heart heavy. "The children would be alone." "Not alone." Vorath stepped forward, their scales shifting to deep purple, the color of absolute certainty. "The human young ones, their neuroplasticity, their adaptive capabilities, they're more resilient than our cubs. They could help care for the others." The Psi Huntmaster nodded, their cybernetic eyes glowing with rare warmth. "Our scans confirm this. Human children's brains adapt more quickly to neural stress. With minimal shielding, they could survive and help maintain order among the other young. The implications were staggering. Every species present would have to trust human children, some as young as 10, to protect and care for their precious young ones during the crisis. A decade ago, the very suggestion would have been met with violence. "I volunteer," Zyra announced, now a striking adolescent Nexi. "I was raised by human care. I can help bridge the gap between human caregivers and other species young." The next 40 hours were a blur of activity. The station's most shielded sections were converted into massive nurseries, equipped with environmental controls for every species. Human children were given crash courses in basic care for different species young, their young minds absorbing the information with remarkable speed. When the time came, over 300 young ones from 24 species were secured in the shielded sections. 40 human children, led by 15-year-old Aaron, would serve as their primary caregivers. Zyra and a handful of other older alien young ones would assist, protected by modified psi neural dampeners. The surge hit with devastating force. Outside the shielded areas, adults of all species struggled to maintain consciousness as their neural patterns were disrupted. Inside the nursery, something remarkable happened. As the first waves of neural disruption reached them, the human children began singing simple, soothing songs they had learned from various species. The Nexi cubs, initially agitated, began purring in harmony. Caraxian young ones added their crystalline tones, while Psi youth contributed deep rhythmic pulses. The combined frequencies created an unexpected effect, a natural neural stabilization field that helped protect everyone within range. The children had instinctively created what advanced technology couldn't, a collaborative defense against the surge. For 72 hours, the human children worked in shifts, maintaining order among hundreds of alien young ones. They handled everything from feeding times to emotional crises, drawing on their training and their natural ability to adapt and empathize. When the surge finally passed, the adults rushed to the nursery, unsure what they would find. They discovered all the young ones not just safe, but thriving. Human children had organized the space into specialized care zones, created new games that incorporated different species' needs, and even developed improved communication methods between species that normally couldn't interact. Years later, Samira stood in the vastly expanded Helios station, watching graduates of that first crisis nursery take their places as leaders in the galactic community. The legacy of compassion would echo through the stars for generations to come.